All right, welcome back to XCOM 2, War of the Chosen Guides. We're taking a look at the Grenadier class this time. And boy, oh boy, is that an interesting class. I really like the Grenadier. Actually, I must confess I like all of the classes, but I also very much like the Grenadier. The Grenadier is kind of the contrast class to the Sniper. It is very strong at the beginning. It has its usage throughout the whole game, but it's not necessarily the strongest end game class because it doesn't scale up all too much. However, with the introduction of War of the Chosen and the bond system, the class actually gained a lot of momentum and is pretty good. The reason why that is the case, it has, together with the sniper rifle, the strongest weapon in the game, which is this heavy gun, dealing just such an incredible amount of damage. Now, things that you should know about the Grenadier in detail is that the Grenadier itself is probably the class with the lowest progression of aim skill, which means it is very hard for him to hit. So I would always recommend, when we're now going through the class, keep in mind tracer rounds are excellent additions for this class. It just synergizes extremely well. You want to hit with your weapon. Secondly, any form of plus hit PCS that you can give the class very much is kind of a no-brainer with this class. Let's take a look at the actual skills. So the class starts out with an ability called Launch Grenade, which means your off-hand weapon, which is this grenade launcher, can start to launch and lob grenades way further into the play field. Now, the great part about this is that the grenade launchers, specifically later in the game, multiply the size of the grenade. It starts with +1 and then ends with +3, which is significant because the grenades basically have up to 2 or 3 tiles in every direction more of explosion space. He's the master of explosions, and I would highly recommend to keep that in mind. If we look at the abilities, you can already see I've skilled a lot of them. And the reason for this is that there aren't so many bad abilities. However, there is one way of how I prefer to level the character, which is, if you look at the Corporal tree, you have the chance between blast padding, giving you 1 additional armor and reducing 66% less damage from explosives, versus Shredder. And this is an option between a good ability and an essential, unbelievably strong ability. So whilst blast padding is great, less damage that you take, and not being affected by grenades all too much is also wonderful. I can tell you it's really a good ability. The other ability, Shredder, is just so much better and so much more vital to the class. The whole reason why I take these guys with me later in the game is because they do have an inbuilt 100% Shredder function in their gun, which means they will take off 2 armor from every single target. It's usually 1 armor, and then there's an option outside in the macro game to upgrade it to 2. So they will take off 2 armor per shot against the target. So if they hit twice with later abilities such as chain shot, they will just strip the enemy from any form of armor. They are extremely good against well-armored targets, and I can't let you play that class without Shredder, okay? Next up, the Sergeant tree. You do have Demolition, which is a great and very undervalued ability, and you do have Suppression. Now, I'm always talking, let's talk about what the abilities do. Demolition basically allows you to take away cover, which is a little bit like a grenade that doesn't deal any damage. It just eats a lot of ammunition, and you have a 4 or 5 turn cooldown afterwards. While Suppression allows you to impose massive -50 penalty on the target's aim, so the enemy cannot shoot at you. Once it would move, you'll take an overwatch shot, plus certain abilities that the enemy elsewise could use are blocked, such as throwing a grenade. Now, whilst I am not a big fan of playing reactively, you always want to kill the enemy before they can do it. Why would I then go for Suppression over Demolition? Hear me out. Demolition is ability that I would say is orange, so it's kind of a okay ability. Suppression is a little bit stronger, I would say upper orange towards greenish tier, so almost a good ability. The reason why it's almost a good ability is in the rare circumstances that you find yourself unfortunately like overpowered by enemies and you can't kill all of them, suppression actually offers you a lot of wonderful utility. You can suppress an enemy and the enemy will have a significant penalty, which stacks together with penalties from disorientation from the flashbang grenades. So certain enemies can't even hit you in low cover anymore if you stack both of these penalties onto them. So in some cases, it kind of is an option to prolong a certain fight. Now, the reason why it isn't completely green is by doing so, you're not killing them, which means on many of the timed missions, you're just taking too many turns in order to kill off enemies. And that usually results in the timer running down and you being screwed for not being fast enough. Demolition has a similar principle or problem. Whilst taking away cover is a great thing, you end up with no ammunition in your weapon, so it's empty almost afterwards. It takes three ammunition, and you lose a full turn, which means next turn you need to reload and then you can start moving again. In most of the cases, this is just losing momentum during timed missions too fast to really make it a great ability. Just my experience there. Happy to hear you out with your comments. Lieutenant rank, two wonderful abilities. One which is premium and one which is very good but not premium. Heavy ordnance allows you to give you an extra grenade. Holo targeting allows you to, once you shoot at an enemy, provide a +15 aim against that target unit for the next 2 turns. So, whilst heavy ordnance is essential because having an extra grenade means one more time cover removal, one more time shredding, one more time getting a special bonus out of it, you will never want to not have heavy ordnance. However, holo targeting is kind of a thing. If you kill enemies fast enough and you feel you do not need the extra aim, fine, no problem. I found out that specifically with things like chain shot later, once you hit the first shot and the target gets like this +15 to hit, it's even easier to follow up on certain shots. So I would recommend to also go for holo targeting. It goes well with Shredder together. It goes well with the chain shot together. So it's just an overall pretty good passive feature. Next up, Captain Rank. Volatile Mix, which is a steady plus straight +2 damage bonus onto all of the grenades, which is fantastic because you're going to use them. And they are often hitting 3 enemies. And that means it's on average +6 more damage to a grenade, which really, really matters. So Volatile Mix is wonderful. Also, Volatile Mix offers you the option to even increase the cover removal potential because grenades deal damage to structures. Structures have, without going too deep into the math there, have certain hit points, and your grenade has a certain extra damage that it does against structures. Volatile Mix in this case helps against it. So to make it easy, Volatile Mix also increases the radius of how you can remove cover. I would always go for Volatile Mix over Chain Shot first. Chain Shot, however, is something that with the Soldier AP I would also skill because it allows you with a penalty of -15, which is offset after the first shot by holo targeting, wink wink, you can take 2 shots in a row. The second one, however, only happens when the first one hits. Now, it looks great on paper, but keep in mind we are bad at aiming. That's why I said at the beginning they need help. In order to pull Chain Shot off and make it really worthwhile, use high ground, use tracer rounds as ammunition, use a PCS with +aim, and give these guys some help with their and give them some special covered ops training missions with +aim for the soldier. Then you will have a monster of a Grenadier who will almost never miss. Next up, Salvo versus Hail of Bullets. Salvo allows you to not end your turn after shooting a grenade, versus Hail of Bullets, which unleashes a very strong hail of bullets that is guaranteed to hit your target. Premium, wonderful ability, very good ability. You always go for the premium ability first. No, Salvo allows you to shoot a grenade without ending your turn. If you understand how important action economy is by now, you will see that having 2 actions in 1 turn just allows you to dish out more damage. This here allows you to remove cover and then afterwards take a shot at them. This here allows you to shoot 2 grenades after one another if need be. This here allows you to shoot a grenade and then move back. There are the possibilities are just endless. Salvo is an extremely strong ability, and I would never play Grenadier without it. Now, that being said, the Hail of Bullets is also not a bad ability. You see that I was running out of ability points here. Elsewise, over the time, I would have probably skilled random a little bit further. Now, Hail of Bullets allows you to hit a target 100%. That can be good against targets that have naturally high evasion rates, such as the Gatekeepers, such as the Archons, such as the Avatars. So then Hail of Bullet is good, specifically if these guys are like somewhere behind a tree in full cover. Great ability. It has its uses. It uses a lot of ammunition, but it still is good. Now, last here, Saturation Fire versus Rupture. Let's start with Saturation Fire, which I think is a little bit stronger than Rupture. Saturation Fire is greenish, orange to greenish, and this one here is also orange to greenish. You see that these abilities here are probably not the strongest ones, so he could have used a little bit stronger capstone abilities compared to other classes. Saturation Fire is basically a high cooldown, I think 5 or 6 turns version of the Shredder cannon, which allows you to hail bullets into a long cone and remove all of the cover in the area of the cone, plus hit all of the enemies. It can hit quite a decent amount of enemies at the same time. It can deal quite a decent amount of damage. It also shreds all of the targets. It doesn't apply holo targeting, unfortunately, to all of them, but everything else works pretty well with Saturation Fire. So I highly recommend you to use it. It has a long cooldown, though. Rupture is also not bad. The reason why it is a little bit worse than Saturation Fire is the following. Rupture allows you to ensure that the Rupture itself deals always a critical damage hit, which is great, so no problem. And it allows you that follow-up shots will deal +3 damage against the target. Now, if there would be a target with like 100, 150 hit points, this ability would be hands down golden. In runs where you are just using ballistic weapons or where you do have a damage problem, also a great ability because it just helps you to kill strong enemies. If you watch the other videos, specifically the sniper video, you will see that with the right ammunition and the right skills, you can kill sectopods and gatekeepers, the strongest enemies, within half of a turn. So it doesn't even take a full turn, which means that Rupture, which was pretty good in the vanilla version, begins to less and less be like the absolute threatening ability that it once was. It's still okay and probably a little bit better than okay, but it is not mandatory. However, this is how I would like finally skill out. The other ones are like niche, but this is how I would do the Grenadier. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and comment down below how you would skill him differently. And see you on the next guide.